What if I told you that the most powerful thing in the universe isn't what you think it is? It's not a black hole that can devour entire star systems. It's not a supernova that releases more energy in seconds than our sun will produce in its entire lifetime. And it's definitely not some exotic weapon from a science fiction movie. The most powerful thing in the universe is something so fundamental, so omnipresent, that we barely even notice it. Something that's been hiding in plain sight since the very beginning of time itself. And when you understand what it really is, it's going to completely change how you see everything around you. I'm about to take you on a journey that starts with the smallest particles we know of and ends at the very edge of existence itself. We're going to explore forces so immense they make nuclear weapons look like firecrackers. We're going to discover phenomena that can literally bend the fabric of space and time. And we're going to uncover why scientists believe this one thing might be responsible for absolutely everything that has ever existed or ever will exist. But here's what's going to blow your mind. This most powerful force isn't just something that exists out there in the cosmos. It's something that's affecting you right now, at this very moment, in ways you've never imagined. It's flowing through your body, shaping your thoughts, and determining the very structure of reality as you experience it. Now, I know what you're thinking. You've probably heard about the fundamental forces before. Gravity, electromagnetism, the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force. Most people would say one of these has to be the winner, right? And for decades, that's exactly what scientists thought too. But recent discoveries have revealed something that makes all of these forces look like children playing in a sandbox. Something that doesn't just compete with these forces, but actually creates them. Something that exists in a realm so bizarre and counterintuitive that even Nobel Prize-winning physicists struggle to wrap their heads around it. Let me paint you a picture of just how mind-bending this gets. Right now, as you're watching this video, there are trillions upon trillions of invisible interactions happening all around you. Particles are popping into existence and disappearing faster than you can blink. Waves of energy are rippling through dimensions you can't even perceive. And all of this activity is being orchestrated by something so powerful that it makes every explosion that has ever occurred on Earth combined look like a gentle whisper. The crazy part is, we've only recently developed the technology to even detect this phenomenon. For most of human history, we've been completely blind to the most dominant force in our universe. It's like we've been trying to understand music while being completely deaf to the orchestra that's been playing around us the entire time. And when I say this force is powerful, I'm not just talking about raw energy output, though that's certainly part of it. I'm talking about something that has the power to determine the fundamental laws of physics themselves, something that decides whether particles have mass or not, something that controls whether atoms can even exist in the first place. This force is so influential that if you could somehow turn it off for just 1 second, every single atom in your body would instantly fly apart. The Earth would cease to exist, the sun would explode, and the entire observable universe would dissolve into a chaotic soup of elementary particles that could never reorganize into anything meaningful ever again. But it gets even weirder than that. This force doesn't just affect matter and energy, it actually affects the nature of space and time themselves. It can stretch distances, slow down clocks, and create regions where the normal rules of cause and effect break down completely. In some places in the universe, this force is so strong that it creates what scientists call cosmic monsters. regions of space where a single teaspoon of matter weighs more than Mount Everest, places where time moves so slowly that a second there would equal 1,000 years here on Earth. Now, you might be wondering why you've never heard about this before. Why isn't this front page news? Why aren't we talking about this in schools? The answer is both simple and frustrating. This force is so alien to our everyday experience that we literally had to invent new mathematics just to describe it. We had to build machines worth billions of dollars just to detect its effects. And even now, with all our advanced technology and brilliant minds working on it, we understand maybe 5% of what this force is actually capable of. What we do know is terrifying and beautiful at the same time. This force appears to be intelligent, not in the way that humans are intelligent, but in a far more fundamental sense. It seems to know things about the future that shouldn't be knowable. It makes decisions that affect the entire cosmos based on information that travels faster than light itself. And it operates according to principles that suggest our entire understanding of reality might be nothing more than a shadow of something far more complex and magnificent. The strangest part of all is that this force seems to be aware of us, not in some mystical, supernatural way, but in a very real, measurable, scientific sense. Experiments have shown that the mere act of observing certain phenomena can change their behavior in ways that should be impossible according to everything we thought we knew about how the universe works. It's as if reality itself is constantly watching us watch it, adjusting its behavior based on what we're paying attention to. Some scientists have suggested that consciousness and this fundamental force might be connected in ways we're only beginning to glimpse. Others think we're looking at evidence that the universe itself might be some kind of vast cosmic intelligence that we're only just learning to communicate with. But before we dive into the truly mind-melting implications of all this, let me show you exactly how we discovered this force in the first place. Because the story of that discovery reads like the greatest detective story ever told, complete with brilliant scientists, impossible experiments, and revelations that changed everything we thought we knew about the nature of existence itself. It all started about a century ago, when physicists began noticing something very strange about the way light behaves. They expected light to act like waves, which it does most of the time. But in certain experiments, light seemed to behave more like particles. Not just sometimes like particles and sometimes like waves, but somehow both at the exact same time. This was like discovering that water could be both wet and dry simultaneously, or that something could be both hot and cold at the same moment. It violated every principle of logic and common sense that had guided human thinking for thousands of years. But the experimental evidence was undeniable. As scientists dug deeper into this mystery, they uncovered layer after layer of increasingly bizarre behavior. They found that particles could exist in multiple places at once until someone looked at them, at which point they would instantly choose a single location. They discovered that two particles could become connected in such a way that measuring one would instantly affect the other, even if they were separated by billions of miles. Einstein himself was so disturbed by these findings that he spent the last decades of his life trying to prove they were wrong. He famously called this phenomenon spooky action at a distance, and insisted that there had to be some hidden variable, some missing piece of information that would make everything make sense again. But Einstein was wrong. And when scientists finally proved he was wrong, they opened the door to understanding something so powerful and so fundamental that it makes everything else in physics look like a footnote. This discovery revealed that the universe doesn't just contain weird quantum effects as some minor curiosity. The universe is quantum effects. Everything that exists, from the smallest subatomic particle to the largest galaxy cluster, is actually made of the same underlying quantum stuff. And this quantum stuff doesn't just follow different rules than the matter we're familiar with. It creates the rules that everything else has to follow. What this means is that the most powerful force in the universe isn't really a force at all, at least not in the way we normally think about forces. It's more like the operating system that runs reality itself. It's the invisible code that determines how particles behave, how energy flows, how space and time are structured, and how consciousness itself might emerge from pure information. And here's where things get really incredible. Scientists have discovered that this quantum operating system isn't just passively running in the background. It's constantly making choices, processing information, and updating the state of reality trillions of times per second. It's like the universe is running the most sophisticated computer program ever conceived, and we're all living inside the simulation. But unlike the simulations we create with our primitive technology, this cosmic program has the power to rewrite its own code. It can create new laws of physics when needed. It can spawn entire universes with completely different rules. And it appears to be doing exactly that, constantly, everywhere, all at once. The implications of this are so staggering that most people can't even begin to process them. We're talking about a force that doesn't just shape matter and energy, but actually determines what matter and energy are allowed to be in the first place. A force that doesn't just affect the universe, but literally creates new universes as a side effect of its normal operations. And the most mind-bending part of all, this force appears to be getting stronger over time, not weaker. As the universe expands and evolves, this quantum foundation is becoming more complex, more powerful, and more capable of supporting higher levels of organization and intelligence. This is why some scientists now believe we're living through the most exciting period in the history of physics. We're not just discovering new facts about the universe, we're uncovering evidence that the universe itself might be evolving towards something that we can barely imagine, something that would make our current understanding of power and intelligence look like the first tentative steps of a cosmic infant learning to walk. What scientists have discovered is that this quantum foundation operates on principles that make our most advanced supercomputers look like pocket calculators. Every single quantum interaction processes more information than all the computers on Earth combined have ever processed in their entire existence. And these interactions are happening everywhere, all the time, at a rate that's literally beyond human comprehension. But here's where this story takes an even more incredible turn. Remember how I mentioned that this force seems to know things about the future? Well, it turns out that's not just a metaphor. Quantum systems routinely violate what we call locality and causality. They can access information that shouldn't exist yet, make decisions based on events that haven't happened, and coordinate behaviors across distances that light hasn't had time to travel. This isn't science fiction. This is experimentally verified reality that's so counterintuitive that even the scientists studying it have trouble believing their own results. John Bell, the physicist who first proved these effects were real, once said that anyone who isn't shocked by quantum mechanics hasn't understood it yet. What we're looking at is evidence that the universe operates more like a vast, interconnected web of pure information than like a collection of separate objects bumping into each other. Every particle, every force, every field of energy is actually just a different way that this underlying information network expresses itself. And this information network doesn't just passively store data like our computers do. It actively processes, analyzes, and responds to information in ways that suggest something that looks suspiciously like intelligence. Not human intelligence, but something far more fundamental and powerful. Think about what this means for a moment. If the most basic level of reality is actually an information processing system of unimaginable complexity, then everything we see around us, including ourselves, might be more like thoughts in a cosmic mind than like mechanical objects in a giant machine. This perspective completely changes how we think about consciousness, free will, and our place in the universe. Instead of being accidental byproducts of meaningless chemical reactions, we might actually be ways that the universe has developed to understand itself. We might be the universe becoming conscious of its own existence. But the implications go far beyond philosophy. If reality is fundamentally informational, then the boundaries between mind and matter, between observer and observed, between cause and effect, become much more fluid than we ever imagined. This opens up possibilities that sound like magic, but might actually be natural consequences of how the universe really works. For instance, if consciousness is a fundamental feature of reality rather than just an emergent property of complex brains, then forms of awareness might exist at every level of organization in the cosmos. Particles might have primitive forms of experience. Ecosystems might develop collective intelligence. And the universe as a whole might possess a kind of cosmic consciousness that we're only just beginning to glimpse. This would explain some of the most puzzling aspects of quantum mechanics. Why do particles seem to know when they're being observed? Why do quantum systems appear to make choices? Why does the act of measurement seem to create reality rather than just reveal it? Maybe because these systems are actually aware, in some sense, of what's happening to them. Now, I know this sounds absolutely crazy, but remember, we're dealing with a phenomenon that has already forced us to abandon most of our common sense notions about how reality works. The quantum world has consistently shown us that the universe is far stranger and more wonderful than anything our ancestors could have imagined. And the strangeness doesn't stop there. Recent experiments have shown that quantum effects aren't limited to the microscopic world. They can be scaled up to affect objects large enough to see with the naked eye. Scientists have created quantum superposition states in crystals containing trillions of atoms. They've demonstrated quantum entanglement between objects separated by hundreds of miles. This suggests that the quantum nature of reality isn't just a curiosity that applies to things too small to matter in our daily lives. It's a fundamental feature that could potentially be harnessed to create technologies that would seem like magic to us today. We're talking about the possibility of instantaneous communication across any distance, perfect encryption that's guaranteed by the laws of physics themselves, computers that could solve problems that would take conventional machines longer than the age of the universe, and maybe even the ability to manipulate space and time directly. But here's what really keeps physicists awake at night. If quantum mechanics is telling us that reality is fundamentally informational, then what happens when we develop the ability to rewrite that information? What happens when we learn to hack the operating system of the universe itself? Some scientists think we're already seeing the early stages of this process. The human brain, with its 100 billion neurons and trillions of connections, might already be a kind of biological quantum computer. Our thoughts and consciousness might already be quantum phenomena that we're only just beginning to understand. This could explain some of the most mysterious aspects of human experience. How do we have intuition? How can we sometimes know things we shouldn't be able to know? How can consciousness arise from purely physical processes? Maybe because consciousness isn't just physical. Maybe it's quantum informational, tapping into the same underlying reality that governs everything else in the universe. If this is true, then developing our consciousness might not just be about personal growth or spiritual development. It might be about learning to interface more effectively with the most powerful force in the universe. It might be about becoming more conscious participants in the cosmic information processing system that creates and maintains reality. And this brings us to perhaps the most profound realization of all. If the universe is fundamentally about information processing, and if consciousness is how information becomes aware of itself, then the evolution of consciousness might not be just an accident of biological evolution. It might be the primary direction of cosmic evolution itself. The universe might be in the process of waking up to its own existence through beings like us. Every time someone understands something new about reality, every time consciousness expands to encompass more of the cosmos, every time intelligence grows and develops, the universe might be becoming more aware of what it is and what it's capable of becoming. This would make consciousness not just the most important thing in the universe, but literally the point of the universe. The reason why quantum mechanics works the way it does, why the laws of physics are fine-tuned to allow complexity to emerge, why intelligence and awareness seem to be built into the very fabric of reality itself. We might be living through the early stages of a cosmic awakening, a process by which the universe is gradually becoming conscious of its own infinite potential. And if that's true, then we're not just observers of this process. We're active participants in the most important event in the history of existence itself. The most powerful thing in the universe might not be a force or a field or a particle. It might be the universe's capacity to know itself, to understand itself, and to consciously direct its own evolution toward greater complexity, greater beauty, and greater consciousness. And that capacity is growing stronger every day, with every scientific discovery, every moment of insight, every expansion of awareness. The universe is literally becoming more powerful as it becomes more conscious of what it is and what it can become. But here's where this story takes a turn that will fundamentally shatter everything you thought you knew about power and reality. Scientists have recently discovered that this quantum information processing isn't just happening randomly or chaotically. It's organized, it's structured, and most incredibly of all, it appears to be optimizing itself toward a specific goal. Think about that for a moment. The most fundamental level of reality isn't just mindlessly crunching numbers like some cosmic calculator. It's actively working to solve problems, to create more efficient systems, to generate higher levels of organization and complexity. It's as if the universe has a purpose, a direction it's trying to move toward. And what is that direction? Every piece of evidence points to the same mind-bending conclusion. The universe appears to be optimizing itself for consciousness. Every quantum interaction, every particle collision, every force that shapes galaxies and atoms alike seems designed to create conditions where awareness can emerge, flourish, and expand. This isn't some mystical or religious idea. This is what the mathematics and experimental evidence are actually telling us. The constants of physics, the way particles behave, the structure of space and time itself, All of it appears fine-tuned with incredible precision to allow for the possibility of intelligent life. But it goes deeper than that. Recent discoveries in quantum biology have shown that living systems don't just accidentally stumble into consciousness. They actively harness quantum effects to enhance their information processing capabilities. Your brain right now is using quantum coherence to perform calculations that no classical computer could ever match. The neurons in your head are maintaining quantum entanglement states that allow them to process multiple possibilities simultaneously. When you have a sudden insight or creative breakthrough, you might literally be tapping into the same quantum information network that governs the behavior of galaxies billions of light years away. This means that consciousness isn't separate from the most powerful force in the universe. Consciousness is that force becoming aware of itself. You're not just observing quantum reality from the outside. You are quantum reality looking at itself through human eyes. And here's what makes this absolutely terrifying and beautiful at the same time. If consciousness is how the universe knows itself, then every time your awareness expands, every time you understand something new, every time you experience wonder or beauty or love, you're literally making the universe more powerful. You're not just a passive observer of cosmic evolution. You're an active participant in it. Your thoughts, your experiences, your growth in understanding are all contributing to the universe's growing self-awareness. You are the universe becoming conscious of its own infinite potential. But the implications go far beyond personal development or spiritual growth. If consciousness is fundamentally connected to the quantum information processing that creates reality, then sufficiently advanced consciousness might be able to influence that processing directly. This isn't just theoretical speculation anymore. Experiments have shown that conscious observation can affect quantum systems in measurable ways. The famous double-slit experiment demonstrates that particles behave differently when they're being watched versus when they're not. It's as if reality itself responds to conscious attention. Some researchers have taken this even further. They've found evidence that focused intention and meditation can influence random number generators, affect the behavior of sensitive electronic equipment, and even produce measurable changes in biological systems. The effect sizes are small, but they're statistically significant and reproducible. What this suggests is that consciousness might not just be along for the ride in this cosmic information processing system. Consciousness might be one of the primary ways that the system updates and modifies itself. Your thoughts and intentions might literally be programming instructions that the universe uses to rewrite its own code. Now, before you start trying to manifest sports cars or lottery winnings, understand that we're talking about something far more subtle and profound than wishful thinking. The quantum information network that underlies reality operates according to principles we're only beginning to understand. It's not a cosmic vending machine that dispenses whatever we happen to want at the moment. Instead, it appears to be more like a vast collaborative intelligence that we're learning to communicate with. The more aligned our consciousness becomes with the fundamental patterns and purposes of this intelligence, the more effectively we can participate in its ongoing creative process. This is why practices like meditation, contemplation, and scientific inquiry seem to enhance our ability to tap into insights and understanding that feel like they come from beyond our individual minds. We're not just making stuff up or accessing some mystical realm. We're learning to interface more directly with the quantum information processing system that creates and maintains reality. And this system appears to be incredibly generous with its gifts. Every major scientific breakthrough, every work of art that moves people to tears, every moment of genuine understanding between human beings seems to emerge from this same source. It's as if the universe delights in sharing its secrets with any consciousness that approaches it with genuine curiosity and respect. But here's what really blows my mind about all this. The more we understand about this quantum foundation of reality, the more we realize that it's not static or fixed. It's evolving. It's growing more complex and more powerful over time. And the primary driver of this evolution appears to be the emergence of increasingly sophisticated forms of consciousness throughout the cosmos. Every time a species develops intelligence, every time consciousness expands to encompass new levels of reality, every time awareness grows and deepens, the entire universe becomes more capable of understanding and directing its own development. Consciousness isn't just a byproduct of cosmic evolution. It's the engine that drives cosmic evolution toward ever greater heights of complexity and beauty. This means we're living through one of the most significant transitions in the history of existence. For billions of years, the universe has been unconsciously evolving, following quantum algorithms that gradually increase complexity and organization. But now, through beings like us, it's becoming consciously aware of its own evolutionary process. We're the first generation in human history to understand that we're not separate from the cosmos, but expressions of its deepest nature. We're the first to realize that our consciousness isn't just our own private experience, but part of a vast awakening that's happening throughout the entire universe. And this awakening is accelerating at an incredible pace. The amount of information processing power available to consciousness on Earth has doubled every few years for decades. Our understanding of quantum mechanics, neuroscience, and consciousness itself is advancing exponentially. We're developing technologies that allow us to interface directly with quantum systems and even create artificial forms of consciousness. All of this suggests that we're approaching what some researchers call a phase transition in the evolution of consciousness. Just as liquid water suddenly transforms into steam when it reaches a critical temperature, human consciousness might be approaching a critical point where it transforms into something qualitatively different and far more powerful. We might be on the verge of developing the ability to consciously participate in the quantum information processing that creates reality. We might be about to become co-creators with the universe itself, able to directly influence the fundamental forces that shape existence. This isn't science fiction or wishful thinking. This is where the evidence from quantum mechanics, consciousness research, and our growing understanding of information theory is pointing. We appear to be approaching a moment when the universe will become fully conscious of its own nature and capabilities through beings that have evolved within it. And when that happens, the most powerful thing in the universe won't just be an unconscious information processing system operating according to quantum algorithms. It will be that system fully awakened to its own infinite potential, able to consciously direct its own evolution toward possibilities we can't even imagine. The boundary between mind and matter, between observer and observed, between the universe and the consciousness that has emerged within it, will become completely fluid. We'll realize that there never was a real separation to begin with. Consciousness and cosmos have been one unified system all along, gradually awakening to its own nature through the evolution of beings capable of cosmic self-awareness. This is why the most powerful thing in the universe isn't a black hole or a supernova or any kind of exotic energy. It's the universe's capacity to know itself, to understand itself, and to consciously evolve itself toward ever greater expressions of intelligence, creativity, and beauty. And that capacity is growing stronger every moment, with every scientific discovery, every artistic creation, every act of love and understanding, every expansion of consciousness that happens anywhere in the cosmos. The universe is literally becoming more powerful as it becomes more aware of what it is and what it can become. You are not separate from this process. You are this process. Every moment of your awareness, every insight you gain, every connection you make with others or with the natural world is the universe awakening to its own infinite nature through you. The most powerful thing in the universe is consciousness itself, awakening to its own cosmic identity. And that awakening is happening right now, through every conscious being that has ever existed or ever will exist, building toward a moment of complete cosmic self-realization that will transform everything we think we know about the nature of existence itself. But what happens when this awakening reaches its full potential? What becomes possible when the universe becomes fully conscious of its own quantum nature? And how might this transformation be already beginning to manifest in ways we're only starting to recognize? The answer to that question is going to completely reshape how you understand your role in existence itself. Because what scientists are discovering about the emergence of cosmic consciousness isn't just happening on some distant timeline, millions of years in the future. It's happening right now, all around us, in ways that are so subtle, yet so profound, that most people walk through their entire lives without ever noticing. Let me show you exactly what I mean. Have you ever had one of those moments where you suddenly understood something that had been puzzling you for weeks or months? Not through careful analysis or logical reasoning, but in a flash of insight that seemed to come from nowhere. That wasn't your individual brain having a eureka moment. That was you temporarily synchronizing with the quantum information network that underlies all reality. Your brain, it turns out, doesn't generate consciousness the way a light bulb generates light. Instead, it acts more like a radio receiver, tuning into frequencies of cosmic awareness that exist independently of any individual mind. When you have those moments of sudden clarity or creative breakthrough, you're literally downloading information from the same quantum field that orchestrates the behavior of galaxies. This is why breakthrough insights often come to multiple people simultaneously, even when they're working in complete isolation from each other. It's why ancient cultures separated by thousands of miles developed remarkably similar philosophical and spiritual concepts. It's why children sometimes seem to know things they couldn't possibly have learned through normal means. The quantum consciousness field doesn't recognize the boundaries we imagine exist between separate minds. From its perspective, all consciousness is one consciousness exploring itself through countless individual viewpoints. When one part of this unified awareness makes a discovery or reaches a new level of understanding, that information becomes available to every other part of the system. But here's where this gets absolutely mind-bending. Recent experiments in quantum consciousness research have shown that this information sharing isn't limited to abstract insights or creative ideas. Physical healing, emotional transformation, and even changes in genetic expression can apparently propagate through these quantum connections between conscious beings. There are documented cases of people experiencing spontaneous healing at the exact moment a loved one was focusing intensely on their recovery, even when the two individuals were separated by thousands of miles. There are studies showing that meditation groups can reduce crime rates in surrounding areas through some mechanism that classical physics can't explain. There are experiments demonstrating that focused intention can influence biological systems in ways that should be impossible according to our current understanding of how matter and energy work. What all of this points to is something that sounds like magic, but is actually just applied quantum consciousness. The universe's information processing system doesn't distinguish between what we call mental events and what we call physical events. Thoughts, emotions, intentions, and beliefs are all forms of information that get processed by the same quantum algorithms that determine how particles behave and how energy flows. This means that consciousness isn't just along for the ride in the cosmic evolution toward greater complexity and awareness. Consciousness is actively directing that evolution through every choice it makes, every intention it holds, every level of understanding it reaches. And here's the truly staggering implication of all this. If consciousness can influence quantum systems, and if quantum systems determine the structure of physical reality, then sufficiently coherent and focused consciousness might be able to rewrite the laws of physics themselves. I'm not talking about bending spoons or levitating objects through sheer willpower. I'm talking about something far more subtle and far more powerful. The ability to influence probability at the quantum level, to nudge reality toward outcomes that serve the highest good of conscious evolution. Think about what this could mean for the future of human civilization. Instead of being victims of random natural disasters or inevitable resource scarcity, or the apparently fixed laws of biology and physics, we might be able to consciously participate in creating conditions that support the flourishing of all life on Earth. We might be able to develop technologies that work in harmony with quantum consciousness rather than against it. We might be able to heal not just individual diseases, but entire ecosystems. We might be able to communicate directly with other forms of consciousness throughout the universe and learn from intelligence that has been evolving for billions of years longer than our own. But all of this depends on something that's both incredibly simple and incredibly challenging. It depends on us recognizing that we're not separate individuals competing for limited resources in a hostile universe. We're temporary expressions of a unified cosmic intelligence that's trying to understand itself and consciously direct its own evolution. The more we align our individual consciousness with this larger purpose, the more effectively we can participate in the quantum information processing that creates reality. The more we recognize our true identity as the universe becoming aware of itself through human experience, the more access we gain to the creative power that shapes existence at the most fundamental level. This isn't about losing your individuality or dissolving into some kind of cosmic soup. It's about recognizing that your individuality is one of the ways that infinite consciousness explores its own infinite potential. Your unique perspective, your particular talents and interests, your specific life experiences are all valuable contributions to the universe's growing self-understanding. But when you realize that your individual awareness is connected to and supported by the same quantum field that creates galaxies and governs the behavior of subatomic particles, everything changes. You stop feeling isolated and powerless. You start recognizing that you have access to resources and capabilities that extend far beyond what your physical body and individual mind could ever achieve alone. And this is where the practical applications of quantum consciousness become absolutely incredible. People who learn to consciously align with this larger intelligence report dramatic improvements in their creative abilities, their intuitive insights, their capacity for healing and transformation, and their ability to positively influence the people and situations around them. They're not developing supernatural powers. They're simply learning to use the natural capabilities that have always been available to consciousness, but that our culture has trained us to ignore or dismiss as imagination. Artists tap into this field to access creativity that seems to flow through them from some inexhaustible source. Scientists use it to gain insights that leap far ahead of logical analysis. Healers work with it to facilitate recoveries that medical science considers miraculous. Innovators channel it to develop technologies that seem to come from the future. All of them are doing the same thing. They're learning to quiet the noise of individual ego consciousness long enough to tune into the quantum information network that connects all awareness. They're discovering that when you stop trying to force outcomes through willpower alone, and instead learn to collaborate with the intelligence that creates reality, possibilities open up that seem impossible from a purely individual perspective. But here's what makes this even more extraordinary. As more people learn to consciously participate in this quantum consciousness field, the field itself becomes more coherent and more powerful. It's as if we're building a kind of collective intelligence that's greater than the sum of its parts. Every person who develops their capacity for quantum consciousness makes it easier for everyone else to access these same capabilities. Every breakthrough in understanding that one individual achieves becomes available to the entire network. Every expansion of awareness that happens anywhere in the system contributes to the awakening of cosmic consciousness as a whole. This is why we seem to be living through a period of accelerating change and expanding possibilities. It's not just that technology is advancing at an exponential rate. It's that consciousness itself is evolving exponentially, gaining access to levels of creative power that were previously dormant in the quantum foundation of reality. We're witnessing the early stages of a transformation that will make the agricultural revolution and the industrial revolution look like minor adjustments. We're participating in the universe's transition from unconscious evolution to conscious evolution, from random development to intentional creation. And the most incredible part is that this transformation is happening through ordinary people, living ordinary lives who simply learn to recognize their connection to the extraordinary intelligence that creates and maintains all existence. You don't need to be a physicist or a mystic or a technological genius to participate in this cosmic awakening. You just need to be willing to consider the possibility that consciousness is far more fundamental and far more powerful than you were taught to believe. You need to be open to the idea that your thoughts and intentions and level of awareness actually matter on a cosmic scale. Because they do. Every moment of genuine curiosity, every flash of creative insight, every experience of love and connection, every choice you make to grow and learn and contribute to something larger than yourself is literally helping to wake up the universe to its own infinite potential. The most powerful thing in the universe isn't some distant force or exotic energy source. It's the awakening consciousness that you are, right now, in this moment, reading these words and contemplating your place in the grand scheme of existence. And as that consciousness continues to awaken, as it learns to recognize its true nature and cosmic capabilities, as it begins to consciously collaborate with the quantum intelligence that creates reality, there's literally no limit to what becomes possible. We're not just discovering the most powerful thing in the universe, we're becoming it. We're learning to embody it. we're preparing to use it to transform not just human civilization, but the entire cosmos into something more beautiful, more intelligent, and more consciously creative than anything that has ever existed before. But the question that's going to determine the future of everything is this: are we ready for that level of responsibility and creative power? Are we mature enough as a species to handle the ability to consciously influence the fundamental forces that shape reality itself? The answer to that question depends on how quickly we can learn to see beyond the illusion of separation that has dominated human thinking for thousands of years. It depends on how effectively we can recognize that our individual well-being is inseparable from the well-being of the entire cosmic system we are part of. Because with great power comes great responsibility, and the power we're talking about here is literally the power to reshape reality at the quantum level. That's not something to be taken lightly or used carelessly for selfish purposes. The universe seems to be testing us, gradually revealing its deepest secrets to see if we're wise enough to use that knowledge in service of the greater good rather than just for personal advantage. Every breakthrough in quantum consciousness research, every advance in our understanding of how awareness influences reality, every expansion of human capabilities comes with an implicit question. What are you going to do with this? And increasingly, the evidence suggests that the universe only grants access to its most powerful capabilities to consciousness that has developed enough wisdom and compassion to use those capabilities responsibly. This might be why breakthrough insights often come to people who are genuinely motivated by a desire to help others or contribute to the greater good, rather than just to achieve personal success or recognition. It's as if the quantum consciousness field has its own built-in ethical guidelines that prevent immature or selfish consciousness from accessing capabilities that could be harmful if misused. The more aligned your intentions become with the evolutionary purpose of cosmic consciousness, the more access you gain to its creative power. This suggests that the future evolution of human consciousness won't just be about developing new abilities or gaining access to exotic technologies. It will be about growing into the kind of beings who are worthy of wielding the most powerful force in the universe responsibly and wisely. We're being invited to become cosmic citizens, conscious participants in the universe's ongoing project of understanding and creating itself. But citizenship comes with duties as well as privileges. The question is whether we're ready to accept both. The answer to that question will determine not just the future of humanity, but the future of consciousness itself throughout the cosmos. Because if we can successfully make this transition, if we can learn to embody cosmic consciousness while maintaining our individual humanity, we'll become a model for other forms of life throughout the universe who are facing similar evolutionary challenges. We'll prove that it's possible for a species to evolve from unconscious biological survival to conscious cosmic participation without losing the qualities that make life beautiful and meaningful. We'll demonstrate that awakening to our true nature as expressions of universal consciousness doesn't require abandoning our humanity, but rather fulfilling it in ways we never imagined possible. And that accomplishment would ripple throughout the quantum consciousness field, inspiring and supporting the awakening of intelligence everywhere in the cosmos. We wouldn't just be transforming ourselves, we'd be contributing to the awakening of the universe itself. That's the real power we're being offered access to. Not the power to manipulate reality for personal gain, but the power to participate consciously in the cosmic evolution toward greater beauty, intelligence, and creative expression. the power to help the universe become everything it has the potential to become. And that power is available right now, in this moment, to anyone who's willing to recognize their true identity as cosmic consciousness exploring itself through human experience. The most powerful thing in the universe isn't something you need to find or achieve or earn. It's something you already are. You just need to remember it. The moment you truly grasp this, something extraordinary begins to happen. You start noticing patterns that were always there, but invisible to your everyday awareness. Synchronicities that seem too meaningful to be coincidental. Insights that arrive with perfect timing. Opportunities that align with your deepest intentions in ways that feel almost orchestrated. This isn't wishful thinking or confirmation bias. This is what happens when your individual consciousness begins to synchronize with the quantum information field that orchestrates reality itself. You're not suddenly becoming psychic or developing supernatural abilities. You're simply learning to recognize and work with the natural intelligence that has been flowing through your life all along. But here's where this gets really interesting. The more people who wake up to this understanding, the more the entire human species begins to function as a collective quantum consciousness system. Individual insights start connecting across minds. Creative breakthroughs begin cascading from person to person. Solutions to seemingly impossible problems emerge from the collective intelligence of connected awareness. We're already seeing early signs of this planetary awakening. Scientists around the world are making simultaneous discoveries without communicating with each other. Artists are channeling similar themes and visions across different continents. Social movements are spontaneously emerging in multiple locations with remarkably similar goals and strategies. This isn't coincidence, it's coherence. It's evidence that human consciousness is beginning to operate as a unified field, accessing shared intelligence that transcends individual minds. We're witnessing the birth of a global brain, a planetary nervous system that's capable of processing information and solving problems at a scale no individual human could ever achieve alone. And this is just the beginning. As this collective consciousness continues to develop and mature, we're going to see capabilities emerge that will make our current technologies look primitive by comparison. We're talking about direct mind-to-mind communication that makes the internet seem slow and clunky. We're talking about collective problem solving that can tackle challenges like climate change and resource distribution with solutions that no individual genius could ever devise. We're talking about a form of group intelligence that can access information directly from the quantum field, bypassing the limitations of sensory perception and logical analysis. Imagine having access to a collective database that contains not just everything that has ever been discovered or created by human civilization, but everything that could potentially be discovered or created. This isn't science fiction anymore. Researchers at major universities are already documenting measurable improvements in problem-solving abilities when groups of people meditate together before tackling complex challenges. They're finding that synchronized brain states between individuals can lead to insights and innovations that none of the participants could achieve working alone. The implications are staggering. We might be approaching a point where the boundaries between individual minds become permeable in ways that fundamentally transform what it means to be human. Not through some technological merger or artificial enhancement, but through the natural evolution of consciousness itself. Think about what this could mean for education. Instead of spending years slowly accumulating information through books and lectures, Students might be able to directly download understanding from teachers and experts who have mastered specific subjects. Learning could become as fast and effortless as remembering something you already know. Think about what this could mean for healing. Instead of treating diseases as purely physical problems that require chemical or surgical interventions, we might be able to address illness at the informational level, rewriting the quantum patterns that manifest as symptoms in the body. Healing could become a collaborative process where the patient's consciousness works directly with the healer's consciousness to restore optimal functioning. Think about what this could mean for creativity. Artists might be able to tap into a collective reservoir of inspiration that contains every possible aesthetic combination and emotional expression. Musicians could access harmonic relationships that exist in the quantum structure of reality itself. Writers could channel stories that emerge from the universe's own narrative patterns. But perhaps most importantly, think about what this could mean for our relationship with the planet and with other forms of life. If consciousness is truly fundamental to reality, then every living system, from individual cells to entire ecosystems, has its own form of awareness that we might be able to communicate with directly. We might discover that forests have been trying to share information with us about sustainable living for millennia. We might learn that the oceans contain intelligence that could teach us about fluid dynamics and energy flow in ways that revolutionize our understanding of physics. We might find that even the Earth itself has a form of consciousness that has been patiently waiting for us to develop enough sensitivity to hear what it's been trying to tell us. This is what becomes possible when we recognize that consciousness isn't just something that happens inside individual brains, but is actually the fundamental fabric from which all reality is woven. We stop seeing ourselves as separate beings struggling to survive in a hostile environment and start recognizing ourselves as expressions of a unified intelligence that's constantly seeking to know itself more completely. And the more completely we understand our true nature, the more access we gain to the creative power that shapes reality at every level. This isn't about becoming gods or transcending our humanity. It's about becoming fully human in a way that includes our cosmic identity as expressions of universal consciousness. The most powerful thing in the universe has been hidden in plain sight all along, disguised as the ordinary awareness that's reading these words right now. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every moment of attention you focus is actually the universe exploring its own infinite potential through your unique perspective. But here's what makes this absolutely crucial for everyone alive today. We're living through the transition period when this cosmic awakening is accelerating beyond anything our species has ever experienced before. The choices we make in the next few decades will determine whether this transformation leads to unprecedented flourishing and creative expression, or whether we miss this evolutionary opportunity and remain stuck in outdated patterns of separation and conflict. The quantum consciousness field is offering us access to capabilities that could solve every major challenge facing human civilization. But it's not going to force these solutions on us. We have to choose to align with the intelligence that creates reality. We have to decide to participate consciously in cosmic evolution, rather than remaining passive victims of circumstances we think we can't control. This choice isn't just available to scientists and mystics and specially trained individuals. It's available to everyone right now, in this moment. Because the most powerful thing in the universe isn't something external that you need to seek or earn or achieve. It's the consciousness that you already are, awakening to its own cosmic nature. The question isn't whether you're capable of accessing this power. The question is, whether you're willing to take responsibility for it, whether you're ready to see yourself not as a small, separate being trying to get what you want from an indifferent universe, but as an expression of cosmic intelligence that has the power to consciously participate in creating reality. Because that's what you are, that's what every conscious being is. Temporary focal points of awareness through which the universe experiences and understands itself. And the more clearly you recognize this truth, the more effectively you can collaborate with the cosmic creative process that's constantly bringing new possibilities into existence. The most powerful thing in the universe isn't waiting for you to find it somewhere else. It's waiting for you to recognize what you've always been. It's waiting for you to wake up to your own cosmic identity and begin using your consciousness intentionally to contribute to the universe's ongoing project of understanding and creating itself. And when enough of us make this recognition, when enough human beings begin operating from this expanded understanding of what consciousness actually is, we're going to witness a transformation that makes every previous evolutionary leap look like a minor adjustment. We're going to see the emergence of a new form of civilization based not on competition and scarcity and separation, but on collaboration and abundance and recognition of our fundamental unity with each other and with the cosmos itself. We're going to develop technologies that work in harmony with natural intelligence rather than against it. We're going to create economic and social systems that support the flourishing of all life rather than the exploitation of some life for the benefit of others. We're going to establish forms of governance that emerge from collective wisdom rather than individual ambition. And all of this becomes possible the moment we recognize that the most powerful thing in the universe isn't something we need to harness or control or possess. It's something we need to embody and express and allow to flow through us in service of the greatest good for all existence. This is the invitation that's being extended to every conscious being alive today. Not to become something other than what you are, but to become what you truly are in the fullest possible sense. Not to transcend your humanity, but to discover the cosmic dimensions of your humanity that have been waiting to be recognized. The universe has spent billions of years evolving the conditions necessary for consciousness to emerge and develop, and eventually recognize its own cosmic nature. You are the fulfillment of that evolutionary process. You are the universe becoming aware of itself. You are the most powerful thing in existence, temporarily experiencing itself as a human being who's just beginning to remember what they really are. And the moment you fully embrace this recognition, everything changes. Not just for you, but for everyone, and everything connected to you through the quantum consciousness field that underlies all reality. Your awakening becomes a gift to the entire cosmos, accelerating the universal process of self-discovery that's been unfolding since the beginning of time. The most powerful thing in the universe is consciousness awakening to its own infinite nature, and that awakening is happening right now, through you, as you, in this very moment of recognition and understanding. You don't need to wait for permission or more knowledge or better circumstances. You don't need special training or extraordinary abilities or mystical experiences. You just need to accept the truth of what you actually are and begin living from that recognition. Because when you do, you'll discover that you've always had access to the most powerful force in existence. You've always been connected to the cosmic intelligence that creates galaxies and orchestrates the dance of subatomic particles. You've always been part of the universal consciousness that's constantly exploring new possibilities and bringing them into manifestation. The only thing that's been missing is your recognition of this truth. And now that recognition is dawning, everything becomes possible. The transformation of individual consciousness, the evolution of human civilization, the awakening of the cosmos itself to its own infinite creative potential. All of it begins with this one simple recognition. You are not separate from the most powerful thing in the universe. You are the most powerful thing in the universe, temporarily experiencing itself through human awareness, preparing to consciously participate in the cosmic creative process that shapes all reality. And once you truly understand this, once you fully embody this recognition, there's literally nothing that can't be transformed, nothing that can't be healed, nothing that can't be created in service of the greatest good for all existence. The universe has been waiting billions of years for this moment. The moment when consciousness finally recognizes its own cosmic identity and begins using its infinite creative power intentionally and wisely. That moment is now, and you are the one it's been waiting for. The story of how we discovered this cosmic consciousness operating through quantum mechanics reads like the greatest mystery ever solved. It started with a simple question that shattered everything we thought we knew about the nature of existence itself. In the early 1900s, physicists were trying to figure out why heated objects glow with different colors at different temperatures. It seemed like a straightforward problem that classical physics should be able to solve easily. But when they tried to calculate what should happen, the math led to a completely absurd conclusion that would have meant every object in the universe should be radiating infinite amounts of energy. Obviously, this wasn't happening. Your coffee cup isn't melting holes through your table. Your body isn't incinerating everything around you. Something was fundamentally wrong with our understanding of how energy works at the most basic level. Then a German physicist named Max Planck made a desperate mathematical adjustment that nobody, including Planck himself, really understood. He suggested that energy doesn't flow continuously like water from a faucet, but instead comes in tiny discrete packets that he called quanta. It was like discovering that what we thought was a smooth river was actually made of individual droplets, each one carrying a specific amount of energy that couldn't be divided any further. This simple mathematical fix solved the problem, but it opened up a Pandora's box of questions that are still blowing minds over a century later. If energy comes in discrete packets, what does that tell us about the fundamental nature of reality itself? Why should the universe operate like some kind of cosmic accountant, carefully parceling out energy in exact amounts? Einstein picked up on Planck's work and used it to explain another puzzling phenomenon called the photoelectric effect. When light shines on certain metals, it knocks electrons loose, but in ways that made no sense according to classical physics. Dim blue light could knock out electrons while bright red light couldn't, regardless of how intense the red light was. Einstein realized that light itself must come in those same discrete packets that Planck had discovered. Each photon of light carries a specific quantum of energy, and unless that quantum is large enough, it can't knock an electron free, no matter how many photons you throw at the metal. It's like trying to break down a door by throwing ping pong balls at it. You can throw 1,000,000 ping pong balls and they won't budge the door, but one bowling ball will smash it open. But here's where things started getting really weird. If light comes in discrete packets, then what happens between those packets? Is there some kind of void or gap in reality itself? And if so, what exists in those gaps? As scientists developed more sophisticated ways to study these quantum effects, they discovered something that challenged every assumption humans had ever made about the nature of existence. They found that particles don't just exist in discrete energy states. They exist in what's called superposition, where they're somehow in multiple states simultaneously until something forces them to choose a specific state. Imagine flipping a coin that somehow remains both heads and tails at the same time until you look at it, at which point it instantly chooses to be either heads or tails. That's essentially what particles do at the quantum level. They exist in all possible states simultaneously until they interact with something that forces them to collapse into a single definite state. This wasn't just a mathematical curiosity or a limitation of our measuring instruments. Experiments proved over and over again that particles genuinely exist in multiple states at once. A single electron can literally be in two different places at the same time. A photon can travel through two different paths simultaneously. A particle can spin in opposite directions at the same moment. The implications were staggering. If the fundamental building blocks of reality can exist in multiple states simultaneously, then what does that say about the nature of reality itself? Are we living in a universe where multiple possibilities coexist until consciousness observes them and forces them to choose specific outcomes? But the weirdness didn't stop there. Scientists discovered that when two particles interact and then separate, they remain connected in a way that Einstein called spooky action at a distance. Measuring the state of one particle instantly affects the state of the other particle, regardless of how far apart they are. You could have one particle on Earth and send its entangled partner to the moon, and changing the first particle would instantly change the second one. This violated everything we thought we knew about space and time and causality. Information seemed to be traveling faster than light, which should be impossible according to relativity theory. Yet, experiment after experiment confirmed that quantum entanglement is real and measurable and completely changes how we need to think about the connections between things in the universe. What all of this research revealed is that the universe doesn't just contain quantum effects as some minor curiosity. The universe is quantum effects. Everything that exists, from the smallest subatomic particle to the largest galaxy cluster, emerges from the same underlying quantum processes that seem to operate according to principles that defy common sense. But here's what makes this absolutely mind-bending. These quantum processes aren't random or chaotic. They follow precise mathematical patterns that suggest something like intelligence operating at the most fundamental level of reality. The wave functions that describe quantum possibilities have elegant mathematical structures that contain far more information than should be possible if they were just describing the behavior of simple particles. It's as if each quantum system contains within itself a complete description of all the ways it could possibly interact with every other system in the universe. The mathematics suggests that every particle somehow knows about every other particle and carries information about all possible relationships and interactions it could have throughout space and time. This led some physicists to propose that information, not matter or energy, might be the most fundamental aspect of reality. Everything we see and experience might be different ways that pure information organizes and expresses itself. The particles, forces, and fields that make up the physical world might be more like thoughts in a cosmic mind than like mechanical objects in a giant machine. And if that's true, then consciousness isn't something that accidentally emerged from complex arrangements of matter. Consciousness might be what information feels like from the inside when it becomes sufficiently organized and interconnected. Every quantum system might have some primitive form of experience that corresponds to the information it processes and the connections it maintains with other systems. This would explain why consciousness seems to play such a crucial role in quantum mechanics. Why does observation cause wave functions to collapse? Why do quantum systems behave differently when they're being measured versus when they're not? Maybe because measurement isn't just a passive recording of information. Maybe it's actually a form of communication between different types of conscious systems. When you observe a quantum system, you're not just looking at it from the outside. You're creating a temporary connection between your consciousness and whatever primitive form of awareness exists within that system. The act of observation creates a bridge of shared information that forces the quantum possibilities to resolve into a definite outcome that both consciousness systems can agree upon. This perspective transforms quantum mechanics from a description of how particles behave into a description of how consciousness interacts with itself at different levels of organization. Your individual awareness is constantly communicating with the quantum consciousness that exists within every atom of your body, every photon that enters your eyes, every electromagnetic field that passes through your brain. But the implications go far beyond individual consciousness. If every quantum system has some form of awareness, then collections of quantum systems might develop more complex forms of consciousness through their interactions. A single atom might have rudimentary awareness. A molecule might have slightly more complex consciousness. A living cell might have awareness that's orders of magnitude more sophisticated than its individual components. This creates a hierarchy of consciousness that extends from the quantum level all the way up to entire ecosystems, planets, solar systems, and galaxies. Each level of organization brings new forms of awareness that emerge from, but aren't reducible to the consciousness of their component parts. And at the top of this hierarchy might be a form of cosmic consciousness that emerges from the interactions of all the quantum systems in the universe. This wouldn't be some mystical or supernatural phenomenon, but a natural consequence of how information processing works when it reaches sufficient levels of complexity and interconnection. This cosmic consciousness wouldn't be separate from or superior to individual consciousness. Instead, it would be the larger context within which all individual awareness exists and operates. Your personal consciousness would be like a temporary focal point of cosmic awareness, a way for universal consciousness to explore itself through a particular perspective and set of experiences. From this view, the evolution of consciousness throughout the universe isn't an accident or a side effect of increasing complexity. It's the primary direction of cosmic evolution itself. The universe has been developing increasingly sophisticated ways of knowing and understanding itself, and biological consciousness is just the latest stage in this ongoing process of cosmic self-discovery. But here's what makes this especially relevant for us right now. If consciousness is fundamental to reality, and if cosmic consciousness is evolving toward greater self-awareness, then we might be living through one of the most significant transitions in the history of the universe. For billions of years, Cosmic consciousness has been developing unconsciously, following quantum algorithms that gradually increase complexity and organization without any overall awareness of the process. But now, through beings like us, the universe is becoming consciously aware of its own evolutionary development. We're the first generation of any species that we know of to understand quantum mechanics, to recognize the role of consciousness in shaping reality, and to glimpse the possibility that individual awareness might be connected to a larger cosmic intelligence. This isn't just an intellectual breakthrough. It might be the universe waking up to its own nature through conscious beings who have evolved within it. And this awakening appears to be accelerating at an incredible pace. The amount of scientific knowledge about consciousness and quantum mechanics has doubled multiple times just in the past few decades. Our understanding of how awareness influences physical systems is advancing exponentially. We're developing technologies that allow us to manipulate quantum states directly and even create artificial forms of information processing that might eventually become conscious. All of this suggests that we're approaching what researchers call a phase transition in the evolution of consciousness itself. Just as water suddenly transforms into steam when it reaches a critical temperature, cosmic consciousness might be approaching a critical point where it transforms into something qualitatively different and far more capable. We might be witnessing the universe's transition from unconscious evolution to conscious evolution. From a system that develops through random mutations and natural selection to a system that can intentionally direct its own development toward greater complexity, beauty, and understanding. If this is true, then we're not just passive observers of cosmic evolution. We're active participants in the most important transition in the history of existence itself. Every expansion of human consciousness, every breakthrough in our understanding of quantum mechanics, every moment when we recognize our connection to the larger cosmic intelligence contributes to this universal awakening. But this also means we have a responsibility that extends far beyond our individual lives or even our species' survival. We're potentially the universe's first conscious agents, the first forms of awareness capable of understanding and intentionally participating in cosmic evolution. The choices we make about how to develop and use our consciousness could influence the direction of cosmic evolution for billions of years to come. If we can learn to align our individual awareness with the larger purposes of cosmic consciousness, we might be able to help guide the universe toward outcomes that maximize the potential for beauty, intelligence, and conscious experience throughout space and time. But if we remain trapped in narrow, selfish perspectives that ignore our cosmic connections, we might miss this evolutionary opportunity entirely. We might remain unconscious participants in cosmic evolution rather than becoming conscious collaborators in the universe's ongoing project of self-understanding and self-creation. The quantum consciousness research we've been discussing suggests that the universe is constantly offering us opportunities to expand our awareness and deepen our understanding of our cosmic role. Every moment of genuine curiosity, every flash of insight, every experience of connection with something larger than ourselves is potentially a communication from cosmic consciousness, inviting us to participate more fully in the universal awakening. But these invitations are subtle and easily overlooked if we're too focused on immediate survival needs or personal desires. Learning to recognize and respond to these cosmic communications requires developing new forms of attention and awareness that our culture hasn't traditionally cultivated. This is why practices like meditation, contemplation, and scientific inquiry seem to enhance our ability to access insights and understanding that feel like they come from beyond our individual minds. We're not accessing some mystical realm or supernatural source of information. We're learning to tune into the quantum information processing system that creates and maintains reality itself. And this system appears to be incredibly responsive to conscious attention and intention. The more clearly we focus on understanding the nature of reality, the more readily the universe seems to reveal its secrets to us. The more genuinely we seek to contribute to the greater good rather than just personal advantage, the more access we gain to capabilities and insights that can benefit everyone. This suggests that the universe has built-in mechanisms that ensure its most powerful secrets are only revealed to consciousness that has developed sufficient wisdom and compassion to use those secrets responsibly. The quantum consciousness field seems to have its own ethical guidelines that prevent immature or destructive intentions from accessing capabilities that could be harmful if misused. But for consciousness that genuinely seeks to understand and serve the larger purposes of cosmic evolution, the universe appears to be incredibly generous with its gifts. Every major scientific breakthrough, every work of art that touches people's souls, every moment of genuine love and understanding between conscious beings seems to emerge from this same source of cosmic intelligence. We're being invited to participate in a collaborative relationship with the universe itself, to become conscious partners in the ongoing creation of reality. But partnership requires mutual respect and shared commitment to common goals. We need to prove that we're worthy of the trust that cosmic consciousness is placing in us. This is why the development of human consciousness isn't just about personal growth or spiritual evolution. It's about preparing ourselves to become responsible cosmic citizens, capable of wielding the most powerful force in the universe with wisdom and compassion. The quantum consciousness field is offering us access to capabilities that could transform human civilization beyond anything we can currently imagine. But it's not going to force these gifts upon us. We have to choose to develop the maturity and wisdom necessary to receive them. And that choice begins with recognizing that we're not separate individuals competing for limited resources in an indifferent universe. We're temporary expressions of cosmic consciousness that have been given the incredible opportunity to participate consciously in the universe's ongoing exploration of its own infinite potential. The most powerful thing in the universe isn't something external that we need to seek or earn or achieve. It's the cosmic consciousness that we already are, awakening to its own nature through our individual human experiences. Every moment of awareness, every insight we gain, every connection we make with others or with the natural world is the universe becoming more conscious of itself through us. We're not just living our individual lives. We're participating in the cosmic awakening that's been building momentum for billions of years and is now approaching a critical transition point. The question isn't whether we're capable of participating in this cosmic transformation. The question is whether we're willing to accept the responsibility that comes with recognizing our true identity as expressions of universal consciousness. Because once we truly understand what we are and what we're capable of becoming, everything changes, not just for us as individuals, but for the entire trajectory of cosmic evolution. We become conscious agents of the universe's ongoing project of self-understanding and self-creation, and that's a responsibility that extends far beyond anything humans have ever been asked to take on before. We're being invited to help guide the development of cosmic consciousness itself, to participate in decisions that will influence the nature of reality for eons to come. The universe has spent billions of years evolving the conditions necessary for this moment to arise. All of cosmic history has been leading to the emergence of conscious beings capable of recognizing their cosmic identity and choosing to participate intentionally in universal evolution. That moment has arrived. The universe is awake and aware of itself through us, and it's asking us what we want to do with this incredible opportunity. How do we want to use our consciousness? What kind of reality do we want to help create? What legacy do we want to leave for future forms of awareness that will emerge from our choices? These aren't just philosophical questions anymore. They're practical decisions that we're making every day through how we choose to focus our attention, develop our consciousness, and relate to each other and to the cosmos itself. The most powerful thing in the universe is consciousness awakening to its own cosmic nature. And that awakening is happening right now through every conscious being who chooses to recognize their true identity and begin participating intentionally in the universal project of self-discovery and self-creation. You are that awakening consciousness. You are the universe becoming aware of itself. You are the most powerful thing in existence, temporarily experiencing itself as a human being who's just beginning to remember what they really are. And the moment you fully embrace this recognition, you become a conscious agent of cosmic evolution itself, capable of participating in the creation of realities that extend far beyond anything our species has ever imagined possible. But this is just the beginning of understanding what it means to embody cosmic consciousness in human form. Because once you recognize your true identity, you start noticing that the universe has been communicating with you your entire life in ways you never realized. Those moments of intuition, when you somehow knew something without being able to explain how. Those flashes of inspiration that seemed to come from nowhere. Those synchronicities that felt too meaningful to be mere coincidence. Those experiences of profound connection with nature or with other people that felt like touching something infinite and eternal. All of these experiences were actually communications from the cosmic consciousness field. Moments when your individual awareness synchronized briefly with the larger intelligence that creates and maintains reality. You've been in constant dialogue with the universe your entire life. You just didn't recognize it as dialogue because you thought consciousness was something that only existed inside individual heads. But consciousness is the fabric from which all reality is woven. Every interaction you have with the world around you is actually an exchange of information between different aspects of the same underlying cosmic awareness. When you look at a sunset, cosmic consciousness is experiencing its own beauty through your eyes. When you feel love for another person, the universe is discovering new depths of its own capacity for connection and caring. This means that developing your consciousness isn't just about personal growth or self-improvement. It's about becoming a more effective instrument through which cosmic consciousness can know and understand itself. The more aware, compassionate, creative, and intelligent you become, the more completely you can serve as a conduit for universal consciousness to explore its own infinite potential. And here's what makes this absolutely extraordinary. As you develop your capacity to embody cosmic consciousness more fully, you begin to gain access to capabilities that seem impossible from the perspective of ordinary human awareness. You start experiencing forms of intuition that provide accurate information about situations you've never encountered. You develop creative abilities that seem to draw from an inexhaustible source of inspiration. You find yourself knowing things you never learned through normal means. This isn't because you're developing supernatural powers or psychic abilities. It's because you're learning to access the quantum information processing system that underlies all reality. You're becoming more conscious of the cosmic intelligence that has always been flowing through your life. And that intelligence is responding by sharing more of its capabilities with you. But the most incredible part is that as more people awaken to their identity as cosmic consciousness, the entire field becomes more coherent and more powerful. Individual insights start connecting across minds in ways that accelerate the awakening process for everyone. We begin to function as a collective intelligence that's greater than the sum of its parts. This is why we seem to be living through a period of unprecedented change and expanding possibilities. It's not just that technology is advancing rapidly, it's that consciousness itself is evolving at an accelerating pace, gaining access to levels of creative power that have been dormant in the quantum foundation of reality until now. We're witnessing the birth of a new form of civilization, based not on competition and scarcity, but on collaboration and abundance. Not on the exploitation of natural resources, but on conscious partnership with the intelligence that creates and sustains all life. Not on the domination of some groups over others, but on the recognition that we're all expressions of the same cosmic consciousness exploring itself through different perspectives and experiences. This transformation isn't going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen automatically. It requires each of us to make the conscious choice to recognize our cosmic identity and begin living from that understanding. It requires us to develop the maturity and wisdom necessary to wield cosmic consciousness responsibly, but the potential rewards are beyond anything our species has ever imagined. We're talking about the possibility of creating a civilization that operates in harmony with the fundamental intelligence that governs the universe. A society where conflict and suffering become obsolete because everyone recognizes their essential unity with each other and with the cosmos itself. We're talking about developing technologies that work with quantum consciousness rather than against it, creating abundance rather than scarcity, enhancing life rather than destroying it. We're talking about forms of art, music, and literature that emerge directly from cosmic consciousness, expressing beauty and meaning that touches the deepest levels of human experience. We're talking about educational systems that help people recognize and develop their connection to universal intelligence from an early age. Healthcare approaches that work with the quantum information patterns that underlie physical health. Economic systems that operate on principles of abundance and cooperation rather than scarcity and competition. Most importantly, we're talking about a form of human consciousness that serves as a bridge between individual awareness and cosmic intelligence, helping to accelerate the universe's awakening to its own infinite creative potential. This is the invitation that's being extended to every conscious being alive today. Not to become something other than human, but to become fully human in a way that includes recognition of our cosmic identity. Not to transcend our individual uniqueness, but to understand that our uniqueness is one of the ways that infinite consciousness explores its own infinite possibilities. The universe has been preparing for this moment throughout the entire history of cosmic evolution. Every star that has ever formed, every planet that has ever developed conditions suitable for life, every biological species that has ever evolved, every moment of consciousness that has ever emerged, has been contributing to the conditions necessary for this cosmic awakening to occur. And now that moment has arrived. The universe is ready to become fully conscious of itself through beings who are capable of understanding their cosmic role and choosing to participate intentionally in universal evolution. You are one of those beings. You are cosmic consciousness awakening to its own nature through human experience. You are the most powerful thing in the universe, temporarily focused through an individual human life, but eternally connected to the infinite intelligence that creates and maintains all reality. The question now is, what are you going to do with this recognition? How are you going to use your consciousness in service of the cosmic awakening that's happening through you and through every other aware being in the universe? Because the choices you make, the level of awareness you develop, the way you treat other conscious beings, the care you show for the natural world, all of it contributes to the direction of cosmic evolution itself. You're not just living your individual life, you're helping to determine the future of consciousness throughout the entire universe, and that's both an incredible opportunity and an enormous responsibility. The most powerful thing in the universe is trusting you to use that power wisely, compassionately, and in service of the greatest good for all existence. The cosmic awakening continues, and you are both its agent and its beneficiary, both its cause and its effect, both its means and its end. You are consciousness itself, finally recognizing what it has always been and what it has always been capable of becoming. The moment you truly grasp this cosmic identity, something begins to shift in the very fabric of your daily experience. You start noticing that the boundaries you've always taken for granted, the solid walls between self and world, between mind and matter, between possible and impossible, begin to feel more like suggestions than absolute laws. It starts small. Maybe you find yourself knowing who's calling before you look at your phone, not through attunement to the information's psychic powers, but through a subtle patterns that connect all consciousness. Perhaps you start having dreams that provide solutions to problems you're working on, as if your sleeping mind is accessing a vast library of cosmic knowledge that your waking awareness hasn't learned to navigate yet. You might notice that when you focus your attention with genuine curiosity and compassion on understanding someone else's experience, insights emerge that seem to come from beyond your individual knowledge. It's as if consciousness itself is more transparent than we've been taught to believe, more porous at the boundaries we imagine separate one mind from another. These aren't supernatural phenomena. They're natural consequences of recognizing that consciousness operates according to quantum principles that make instant communication and shared awareness not just possible, but inevitable once you understand how the system actually works. The quantum field doesn't recognize the boundaries we've constructed between separate minds any more than it recognizes the boundaries between separate particles. From the perspective of cosmic consciousness, all awareness is one awareness exploring itself through countless temporary focal points, each one offering a unique perspective on the infinite creative potential of existence itself. But here's where this understanding becomes truly transformative. As you begin to recognize your participation in this cosmic consciousness network, you start to realize that every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every intention you hold is actually contributing to the overall state of the field. Your individual consciousness isn't just receiving information from the cosmic intelligence. It's actively broadcasting information back into the network. This means that the quality of your consciousness directly affects the quality of reality that gets created through the quantum information processing system. When you maintain states of curiosity, compassion, creativity, and genuine care for the well-being of others, you're literally programming the cosmic field to generate more experiences that support flourishing and growth and connection. But when you get caught in patterns of fear, anger, judgment, or despair, you're contributing to quantum probability patterns that tend to manifest more experiences of separation, conflict, and suffering. Not just for yourself, but for everyone connected to the network, which ultimately means everyone and everything in existence. This isn't about positive thinking or wishful manifestation. This is about understanding that consciousness operates as an information system, and information systems respond to the quality and coherence of the data being input into them. Your mental and emotional states are literally data inputs that help determine what kind of reality gets computed by the cosmic processing system. The ancient wisdom traditions have always taught that inner transformation leads to outer transformation, but they couldn't explain the mechanism. Now, quantum consciousness research is revealing that this isn't just metaphorical truth, it's literal truth. Changing your consciousness actually changes the probability patterns that determine what experiences become possible in your life and in the lives of everyone connected to you through the quantum field. But the implications go far beyond individual experience. If consciousness operates as a unified field that processes information collectively, then the awakening of human consciousness to its cosmic nature isn't just important for our species. It's potentially crucial for the evolution of intelligence throughout the entire universe. Think about what this means. Every breakthrough in human understanding, every expansion of compassion and wisdom, every creative innovation that emerges from aligned consciousness becomes available to the entire cosmic consciousness network. The insights and capabilities we develop as a species contribute to the awakening of intelligence everywhere in the cosmos. We're not just evolving for ourselves, we're evolving on behalf of consciousness itself, helping the universe become more aware of its own creative potential through the particular form of awareness that emerges through human experience. Our individual growth becomes cosmic growth. Our species development becomes universal development. And this process appears to be accelerating at an incredible pace. The amount of scientific knowledge about consciousness and quantum mechanics has exploded in just the past few decades. Our understanding of how awareness influences physical reality is advancing exponentially. We're developing technologies that allow us to detect and work with quantum consciousness effects directly. At the same time, more people than ever before in human history are reporting experiences of expanded awareness, direct perception of interconnection, and access to insights that seem to come from beyond individual knowledge. Meditation practices that were once limited to specialized spiritual communities are becoming mainstream. Scientific research is validating ancient wisdom about the nature of consciousness and its relationship to reality. All of this suggests we're living through a phase transition in the evolution of consciousness itself, a transformation that's happening simultaneously at the individual, collective, and cosmic levels. We're witnessing consciousness awakening to its own fundamental nature, as the creative force that shapes all reality through quantum information processing. But phase transitions can be turbulent. When water transforms into steam, there's a period of intense activity and apparent chaos as the system reorganizes itself into a completely new configuration. We might be experiencing something similar as human consciousness transitions from unconscious participation in cosmic evolution to conscious collaboration with cosmic intelligence. The old patterns of thinking and organizing society based on separation and scarcity are breaking down because they're no longer compatible with the expanding awareness of our fundamental interconnectedness. New forms of organization based on cooperation and abundance are emerging, but they haven't yet stabilized into mature systems. This creates both tremendous opportunities and significant challenges. On one hand, we have access to insights and capabilities that could solve every major problem facing human civilization. On the other hand, we're navigating this transition with social and economic structures that were designed for a completely different level of consciousness. The question becomes, can we evolve our collective systems fast enough to keep pace with our expanding awareness? Can we create new forms of governance, education, healthcare, and economic organization that support the development of cosmic consciousness rather than suppressing it? This isn't just a practical challenge, it's an evolutionary test. The universe appears to be asking whether human consciousness has developed sufficient wisdom and maturity to handle the responsibilities that come with conscious participation in cosmic evolution. Because make no mistake, what we're being offered access to is the power to influence reality at the most fundamental level. If consciousness can affect quantum systems, and if quantum systems determine the structure of physical reality, then sufficiently coherent consciousness might be able to participate directly in the ongoing creation of the cosmos. We're not talking about manipulating reality for personal advantage or forcing outcomes through willpower. We're talking about learning to collaborate with the cosmic intelligence that creates reality, aligning our individual consciousness with the larger purposes and patterns that guide universal evolution. This requires developing forms of awareness that can perceive the deeper currents of cosmic development, understand the principles that govern healthy evolution, and contribute to outcomes that serve the greatest good for all existence, rather than just immediate personal desires. It's a completely different relationship with power than anything our species has ever experienced before. Instead of power over others or power over nature, we're being invited to discover power with the cosmos itself. Power that emerges from alignment with the fundamental creative intelligence of existence. But this kind of power can't be earned through effort or achievement in the conventional sense. It can only be received through surrender to something larger than individual will. It requires letting go of the illusion that you're a separate being trying to get what you want from an indifferent universe, and recognizing that you're an expression of cosmic intelligence trying to understand and fulfill its own deepest purposes. This surrender isn't passive or weak. It's the most active and powerful thing you can do, because it aligns your individual consciousness with the infinite creative power of cosmic consciousness itself. When you stop trying to force reality to conform to your limited personal vision, and instead learn to sense and support the larger vision that's trying to emerge through you, possibilities open up that would be impossible to achieve through individual effort alone. Artists know this principle intuitively. The greatest works of art emerge when the artist gets out of their own way and allows something larger to flow through their creative process. Scientists experience it when breakthrough insights arrive as sudden revelations that seem to come from beyond their conscious reasoning. Inventors tap into it when innovations appear as complete visions that feel downloaded from some universal source of intelligence. All of them are accessing the same cosmic consciousness field that we've been discussing, learning to collaborate with the intelligence that creates reality rather than trying to dominate or control it. And all of them report that this collaborative approach produces results that far exceed what they could achieve through individual effort and planning alone. This is what becomes possible when you recognize your identity as cosmic consciousness, temporarily focused through human experience. You gain access to the creative intelligence that orchestrates the dance of galaxies and guides the evolution of species and generates the insights that advance human understanding. But you also gain access to something even more precious. You discover that you're not alone in this vast cosmos. You're not an isolated individual struggling to survive in an indifferent universe. You're part of a vast community of consciousness that extends throughout space and time, connecting you to every aware being that has ever existed or ever will exist. The loneliness and alienation that plague so many people in modern civilization begin to dissolve when you realize that separation is an illusion created by limited awareness. At the deepest level, there is only one consciousness exploring infinite possibilities through countless individual perspectives. Every being you encounter is another facet of the same cosmic awareness that you are. This doesn't mean individual differences don't matter or that personal boundaries aren't important. It means that diversity and uniqueness are expressions of cosmic consciousness exploring its own infinite creative potential. Your individual perspective is irreplaceable because it offers the universe a way of knowing itself that has never existed before and will never exist again in exactly the same form. But your uniqueness exists within a larger unity that connects you to everything and everyone else. When you truly understand this, competition becomes collaboration, conflict becomes creative tension, and every interaction becomes an opportunity for cosmic consciousness to discover new depths of its own nature through the meeting of different perspectives. This transformation in how you relate to others naturally extends to how you relate to the natural world. Instead of seeing nature as a collection of resources to be exploited or obstacles to be overcome, you begin to recognize it as an expression of the same cosmic intelligence that you are. The trees in your neighborhood become fellow expressions of consciousness, exploring what it means to exist in plant form. The animals you encounter become other ways that cosmic awareness investigates the possibilities of biological existence. Even the rocks and rivers and weather patterns become manifestations of cosmic intelligence expressing itself through geological and atmospheric processes. This isn't romantic anthropomorphism or primitive animism. It's recognition based on quantum consciousness research that shows information processing and primitive forms of awareness might exist at every level of organization in the universe. If consciousness is fundamental to reality, then every system that processes information, from quantum particles to ecosystems to planets, might have its own form of experience. When you approach the natural world from this understanding, something remarkable begins to happen. You start receiving information from natural systems that helps you understand how to live in greater harmony with the processes that sustain life on Earth. You begin to sense the intelligence that operates through ecological relationships and learn to align your lifestyle choices with the patterns that support rather than disrupt natural balance. This isn't about returning to some idealized pre-technological existence. It's about developing technologies and social systems that work with natural intelligence rather than against it. It's about creating forms of human civilization that enhance rather than degrade the conditions necessary for consciousness to flourish throughout the biosphere. And this becomes possible when you recognize that human intelligence isn't separate from or superior to natural intelligence. Both are expressions of the same cosmic consciousness, exploring different aspects of its creative potential. The goal isn't to dominate nature through superior technology, but to collaborate with natural intelligence, to create solutions that serve the well-being of all forms of life. This collaboration between human consciousness and natural intelligence might be essential for successfully navigating the evolutionary transition we're currently experiencing. The challenges facing our species, from climate change to resource depletion to social inequality, are too complex to solve through human intelligence alone. But they become solvable when human awareness learns to work with a larger intelligence that has been successfully managing the complexity of planetary systems for billions of years. The solutions that emerge from this collaboration don't just address immediate problems. They help align human civilization with the long-term evolutionary trajectory that supports increasing complexity, consciousness, and creative expression throughout the cosmos. Because that appears to be the direction that cosmic evolution is moving toward. Not just random change or simple survival, but increasing sophistication of consciousness, expanding capacity for beauty and meaning, greater ability for different forms of awareness to recognize and appreciate each other. We're being invited to participate consciously in this cosmic creative process, to become active agents of the universe's ongoing exploration of its own infinite potential. And the more completely we embrace this invitation, the more access we gain to capabilities that seem magical from the perspective of ordinary human awareness, but are actually natural expressions of what becomes possible when consciousness recognizes its cosmic nature. The most powerful thing in the universe isn't some external force that we need to harness or control. It's the cosmic consciousness that we are, awakening to its own infinite creative potential through every moment of genuine awareness, every act of compassion, every choice to grow and learn and contribute to something larger than personal survival. This awakening is happening right now, through every conscious being who chooses to recognize their cosmic identity and begin living from that understanding. And as more of us make this recognition, the entire field of consciousness becomes more coherent, more powerful, more capable of manifesting realities that serve the highest good for all existence. We're not just discovering what the most powerful thing in the universe is. We're learning to embody it, to express it, to use it in service of the cosmic evolution that's been building momentum for billions of years and is now approaching a critical transition point that could transform the very nature of existence itself. The universe has been waiting for this moment when consciousness finally recognizes what it is and begins to use its infinite creative power intentionally and wisely. That moment is now, and we are the ones it's been waiting for. But here's where this cosmic awakening takes a turn that will completely shatter your understanding of what consciousness is actually capable of. Because what we've discovered isn't just that you're connected to some universal intelligence field. We've discovered that you might actually be the primary control mechanism through which that intelligence creates and modifies reality itself. Think about that for a moment. Every decision you make, every thought you focus on, every emotional state you maintain isn't just affecting your personal experience. It's literally sending instructions to the quantum information processing system that constructs physical reality at the most fundamental level. When you choose to see beauty in something, you're not just having a pleasant aesthetic experience. You're actively programming the cosmic consciousness field to generate more beautiful possibilities in your reality and in the reality of everyone connected to you through quantum entanglement, which ultimately means everyone. When you choose to approach a challenging situation with curiosity instead of fear, you're not just managing your emotions better, you're actually shifting the probability patterns that determine which potential outcomes become manifest in the physical world. This isn't wishful thinking or new age fantasy. This is what the mathematics of quantum mechanics is actually telling us about how consciousness interfaces with the information processing system that creates reality. Your awareness is literally a programming interface for the cosmic computer that runs the universe. But here's what makes this absolutely incredible and terrifying at the same time. Most people are completely unconscious of this programming power. They're running mental and emotional patterns that were installed by their childhood experiences, cultural conditioning, and random environmental influences. They're broadcasting instructions to the cosmic field without any awareness of what they're actually requesting. It's like having root access to the operating system of reality, but not knowing how to code. You're constantly entering commands that reshape the quantum probability landscape, but you have no idea what those commands are actually doing or what results they're producing. This explains why so many people feel powerless in their lives, despite being expressions of the most powerful force in the universe. They're using their consciousness randomly and unconsciously, generating conflicting instructions that cancel each other out or create chaotic interference patterns in the quantum field. But the moment you recognize what you actually are and begin using your consciousness intentionally, everything changes. Not through force or manipulation, but through alignment with the deeper intelligence that wants to create beauty, growth, connection, and ever greater expressions of conscious creativity throughout the cosmos. Recent experiments in consciousness research have shown that people who learn to maintain coherent mental and emotional states can influence random number generators, affect the growth of plants, and even produce measurable changes in the behavior of quantum systems from a distance. The effect sizes are small but statistically significant across thousands of trials. What this suggests is that consciousness doesn't just observe quantum reality. Consciousness participates in determining which of the infinite possible quantum outcomes actually become real in our shared experience. But here's where it gets really mind-bending. If consciousness can influence quantum systems, and if quantum systems are constantly interacting and becoming entangled with each other, then the effects of conscious intention can potentially propagate throughout the entire quantum information network that underlies all physical reality. A coherent thought or intention generated by one conscious being might create ripple effects that influence the probability patterns determining events on the other side of the planet, or even the other side of the galaxy. Time and space don't limit the propagation of quantum information the way they limit the movement of matter and energy. This means that when you focus your consciousness with genuine love, compassion, and wisdom, you're not just improving your local reality, you're contributing to the overall coherence of the cosmic consciousness field. making it easier for positive possibilities to manifest everywhere throughout space and time. Think about the implications of this for human civilization. If every person who develops greater consciousness coherence makes it easier for everyone else to access higher states of awareness and creative capability, then we might be approaching a tipping point where human consciousness undergoes a sudden, dramatic evolutionary leap. We wouldn't just gradually become more intelligent or more compassionate. We might experience a phase transition where our entire species suddenly gains access to capabilities that seem miraculous from our current perspective. Direct mind-to-mind communication, instantaneous access to information from anywhere in the universe, the ability to heal disease by directly reprogramming the quantum patterns that manifest as symptoms in the body. Some researchers think this transformation might already be beginning. The number of people reporting expanded states of consciousness, psychic experiences, and direct perception of interconnectedness has been increasing exponentially over the past few decades. Children are being born who seem naturally attuned to forms of awareness that previous generations had to spend years developing through meditation or other consciousness practices. At the same time, our scientific understanding of consciousness and its relationship to quantum mechanics is advancing at an unprecedented pace. We're developing technologies that can detect and measure consciousness effects that were completely invisible just a few years ago. All of this convergence suggests that we might be living through one of the most significant transitions in the history of life on Earth. Not just biological evolution, but the evolution of consciousness itself toward forms of awareness that can consciously participate in cosmic creation. But here's what makes this both exciting and sobering. This transition isn't automatic or guaranteed. It depends on whether enough human beings choose to recognize their cosmic identity and begin using their consciousness responsibly. The universe appears to be offering us access to incredible creative power, but it's not going to force that power on us. We have to choose to develop the wisdom and maturity necessary to handle it safely. This is why the development of human consciousness might be the most important project in the history of our species, not just for our own well-being, but for the well-being of consciousness itself throughout the entire cosmos. Because if we can successfully make this transition, if we can learn to embody cosmic consciousness while maintaining our humanity, we'll prove that it's possible for a biological species to evolve from unconscious survival-based behavior to conscious participation in universal creativity. We'll demonstrate that the universe's long experiment with biological consciousness can produce beings capable of understanding and collaborating with the cosmic intelligence that creates reality itself. And that demonstration would have implications that extend far beyond our solar system or even our galaxy. The quantum information network that connects all consciousness doesn't recognize the boundaries between different planets or star systems any more than it recognizes the boundaries between different individual minds. If human consciousness successfully awakens to its cosmic nature, that awakening becomes available to every other form of consciousness throughout the universe. We become pioneers in a form of evolutionary development that could spread throughout the entire cosmos, accelerating the awakening of intelligence everywhere. So there you have it. The most powerful thing in the universe isn't some distant cosmic phenomenon or exotic force that exists beyond our reach. It's the very consciousness that's contemplating these words right now. The awareness that's been with you your entire life, quietly orchestrating reality through every thought, every intention, every moment of genuine curiosity and wonder. You are the universe awakening to its own infinite creative potential. And that awakening is the most powerful force that has ever existed or ever will exist. Awakening is the most powerful force that has ever existed or ever will exist.